Well, some of you know that Randy and I live in Inwood, which has a lot of beautiful parks. Wednesday morning, I went for a long, beautiful walk in the woods, and then the allergies hit me. So my voice is a little weaker tonight than usual, and I'm hoping I'll make it through the Drashah. So hang in there with me. Don't worry, I've got a pocket full of cough drops. I just did a whiff off of Randy's inhaler. I've been guzzling cough medicine all day, and here I am. I shouldn't waste too many words on the Drashah. Okay, here we go, the Drashah. Okay. This week, the Shabbos, is the last Shabbos before Shavuot, which comes this coming Thursday night. You're all welcome to join us. We have a CBST track at the JCC on the Upper West Side, along with 1,500 other Jews of New York City. And this Shabbos, we always read this parsha of Bamidbar. This begins the description in great detail of what it's like to be in the desert, of what it's like to be in the wilderness, of what it's like to not know what the path ahead is, of what it's like to be uncertain of how to live. The model that is given to us in this journey from Passover to Shavuot, and indeed of the whole Chumash itself, is that the journey through the desert to reach a promised land, maybe not the promised land, but even a promised land, is a very long journey. And this model that's given to us teaches us to focus on the journey itself and not on the destination. And that is a lesson we have to learn over and over again in our life. That we're not on diversions from what life is supposed to be. And that somehow if only we get to there, that will be life. But we're doing it. This is the life we have, whatever it is. This is the journey we're meant to be on, whatever it is. And we're so aware of the ways in which we might not, although we're out of maybe the worst of being an enslaved people like the Israelites were at this moment of the journey, we are all so individually and collectively very far from redemption, no matter how much therapy we've had. We are so aware of how great the distance is in front of us. And it's easy to feel a little despair, or maybe a lot of despair, and hopeless and helpless. And it's true both about the national stuff, and you've all heard me talk for many years, and sometimes my voice is stronger than it is now. But if there is Torah I have to teach, it is this Torah that I need to learn, and so you're listening to me learn it over and over again. The journey is the point, and we don't know where we're going. And we hope it's better as we take one step in front of the other, but there are no guarantees. The only thing that makes life worthwhile is the people we choose to go on that journey with. How we manage to wake up each morning and say, you know what, I'm going to embrace this day as the important part of the journey. And it's easy to look around in both our own lives and in the political universe and to see things that make us want to withdraw from our own life, from other people, from the world. And this is my teaching for myself and for all of us over and over again. And as I'm entering into 13 months until I step down in this role, it's a message I have to teach over and over again. We're on a journey that we don't know where the end is. And anybody who says they do, they're selling you a bridge in Brooklyn. It's our job to make this journey meaningful each day with whatever we have to do, whatever our limitations are, whoever our parents, our grandparents were, whatever terrible relationships we've had, whoever we've been, whatever addictions we've struggled with, each day we wake up anew. Anew, but with all of that behind us. That's the miracle of being a human being. Looking around the world in which we live, how do we keep finding ways to respond that don't just crush us? And I want to give you an example, a very specific example. Today is Yom Yerushalayim, or Friday was Yom Yerushalayim, ending on Shabbat. It is the Hebrew date of the day during the Six-Day War when the paratroopers broke through into the Old City, arrived at the Western Wall, and Jerusalem was, depending on your political perspective, united. And from 1967 to today, Jerusalem has been under Israeli Jewish rule, and access is unlimited to the Western Wall for Jews, as we know. So 56 years ago, the Israeli army reached the Kotel, and the celebration throughout the Jewish world was passionate. It was a release of incredible power. And for those of us who were alive and conscious at those moments, we knew that the months leading up to the Six-Day War, there was tremendous anxiety about whether Israel would be wiped off the earth. That was the energy in May of 1967, as we knew the armies were forming and the attack was going to take place. There was tremendous anxiety. So when the Israeli army reached the Kotel, there was a tremendous, all over the world, expression of joy, and it was a miracle. Jerusalem Day became a national holiday in Israel, Yom Yerushalayim. Great debates whether Hallel is even said. Some religious Jews say yes, some say no. But this year, Jerusalem Day is celebrated the day before because of Shabbat. So if it lands on a Friday, it's never celebrated on Friday. So it was celebrated yesterday. So how is it celebrated? How's my voice doing? Can everybody bear this? Okay. I might need another whiff, Randy, of the inhaler. See, it pays to have a wife who's an asthmatic. I hope there are no doctors here. You're not supposed to do that. Don't do this at home, okay, people? Don't do this. Okay. So it was celebrated yesterday in Jerusalem, and there are beautiful parts of Jerusalem Day. For instance, Ethiopian Jews, it was the date that is celebrated in Israel every year to commemorate the thousands of Ethiopian Jews who were killed or died on the route from Ethiopia to Israel in Sudan. And so it's a huge Ethiopian celebration, even though it's commemorating the deaths. It's a big expression of Ethiopian Israeli pride and consciousness, very important. But what has it become in Jerusalem itself? I'm going to say a few words, and then, Jason, we're going to show a few photographs, but let me speak first. There's been developed over the last several bunches of years something called the Flag March, in which young, mostly teenager, religious Jewish teens go through the old city with Israeli flags, chanting things like, "Death to the Arabs," "Mohammed is dead," "Your villages should burn." And they go through the old city very aggressively and violently, often attacking Palestinians who are in the streets and throwing things and attacking the stores and merchants who are found there. In fact, all the Palestinian shops have to close up. Thousands and thousands of police are there to try and do something. It used to be that this march would go from Gan Sacher, which is a park in Jerusalem, through the Jaffa Gate and through the Armenian and the Jewish quarter to get to the Western Wall. But in the year 2000, supported by Bibi Netanyahu, the Jewish supremacists in Israel, who are the equivalent, let me be so clear about this, it breaks my heart to say this, they are the equivalent of white supremacists here in America. The Jewish supremacists, starting in the year 2000, supported and encouraged by Bibi, decided that they would go through the Muslim quarter of the old city, through the Palestinian quarter in order to say, we own you, you're here because we are letting you be here. And these chants became very common. Death to the Arabs, Muhammad is dead, your villages should burn. They're led by different groups. One of them is called Lahava, which is a terrorist organization, a Jewish terrorist organization called Lahava, which means flame or to inflame. And sadly, many of these kids are Mizrahi kids whose families are from Arab countries. They're poor, they're marginalized. Start to sound familiar? They're listening to the voices of these Jewish supremacists who are saying there's somebody lower than you, right? Sound familiar? How do you get these young kids enraged? And they, along with settler teens and young and men in their 20s and young men, settler teens from the settlements in the West Bank may come in the thousands to go through the Damascus Gate, which is the entrance to the old city Palestinian or Muslim quarter. The Christian quarter is also Palestinian, of course, but this is through the Muslim quarter, Dafka, to go through and to be able to make this very aggressive nationalist. So let's see some pictures. Jason, do you have those initial pictures? And thank you to Rabbi James. So that's the symbol of Lahava, this fascist Jewish supremacist group. One of their positions is that Jews should never marry Arabs, and they attack any Jew who's married an Arab, and they attack the Arabs as well, of course. And they are Jewish supremacists, absolutely the equivalent of white supremacists. So I don't know if you could see the pictures of the mobs. This is from yesterday, going through the old city. Next. So you could see the young teens and their facial expressions. Keep going, let's just go through these pictures. And here they are attacking a Palestinian in the old city. Keep going. And you see they're all religious. And you see the t-shirt says, death to the terrorists, because the formula, the equation is all Palestinians are terrorists. And so that's a death to the terrorists t-shirt. And then you can see here's can you imagine this as a Jew look at this symbol? This is a very popular symbol for this Jewish supremacist group, a Magen David with a, one of those automatic weapons. Go ahead. So you can see this is from maybe CNN, I'm not sure, what, BBC? And you can see they're shouting, may your villages burn. This is yesterday, okay, thank you. So, how do you respond to such hate in the name of our religion? This is being done by religious Jews, attacking real human beings and doing it. Remember, we were rejoicing in 67, but how have we come to this? How do we deal with these feelings of disgust? Well, there are all different ways, right? One way is to completely separate from Israel and feel like, oh my God, curse on all their houses. And impossible to say, well, all Israelis must be racist. So, I want to tell you a story about one Orthodox Jewish man named Gadi Givaryahu. So, Gadi is an Orthodox Jewish man. And when he saw things happening where there were attacks by Jewish terrorists on Palestinians, when the Jewish terrorists would go and attack a Palestinian, if there had been any attack on anything Jewish, so let's say there was a horrible terrorist attack on a Jew. The Jewish terrorists would go and burn down an olive field or attack any Palestinian that they met simply to have a eye for an eye, but not at all the person who was responsible, just attack anybody who was Palestinian. And they would paint on the doors or on the walls of a house or on the near where they did these attacks, they would write the words in Hebrew, Tag Machir, which in Hebrew means price tag. Tag is actually the English word tag, but pronounced in Hebrew it's tag. So Tag Machir, which is if you go into a store, it's a price tag. It's the same thing that would be on a coat, if you're jacket, if you're buying it. Tag Machir is a price tag. But these Jewish terrorists would use the phrase Tag Machir every time they attacked a Palestinian to make them pay for any attack on a Jew. any Palestinian, any family, and many horrific attacks have been done with the Tag Mahir graffiti always found. So Gadi, remember, an Orthodox Jew, said, this is not my Judaism. So he organized a group and called it Tag Meir. Again, sounds kind of similar, but instead of price tag, sorry about this. You can hear me though, right? Instead of price tag, Tag Meir means, Meir is to enlighten, or to make light, or to create light, L-I-G-H-T, light, not make light, that kind of light. So Meir, like from the word or, light. So he created a group called Tag Meir, light tag, how to create energy of light instead of a price tag. And thousands of people are now members of Tag Meir. If a Palestinian is killed by a Jewish terrorist, they go make a mourner's visit. If there's been an attack on a mosque or a church, and by the way, they're escalating since this new government especially, they go to that mosque and they go to the church and they make a visit. And they say, not all Jews are like that. We respect you. We want to meet you. They sit and talk to them. And then 9 years ago, they were so upset about what was happening with the flag march on Jerusalem Day that Gadi and this Tag Meir group, which, by the way, you can find on Facebook in English. They have a wonderful English Facebook page. You can follow them and see the things that they're doing. Anytime something horrible happens, they say, our job is to spread light. So, on the day of Jerusalem Day, when these Jewish religious teens, these Jewish supremacists, run through with these flags screaming these horrible things, what does Tag Meir do? They take hundreds of Jews, Israeli Jews, and they take flowers, and they distribute flowers throughout the Muslim quarter. And let's look at some pictures of, this is from yesterday also. So what are they doing? They're going through, can you see the photographs, everybody? So you can see they're going through with flowers instead of spreading hate. This is yesterday. This is not some fanciful idea. Next picture, you'll see pictures of the Israeli Jews going through the Muslim quarter of the old city, handing out flowers. Next, reaching out to people. Sometimes they won't accept them because they're so afraid. And sometimes there's these, you'll see these beautiful, keep going with the photos. So you can see they go one by one, human being to human being, and distribute a flower. Does it undo everything of the damage that's done? No. But does it create a different narrative and provide a way to respond to this ugliness with great beauty? Exactly. So let's see the next one. So you can see, look at all those flowers. By the way, you can donate to them, which I do every year, to make sure that I help. What I can do when I hear about this is I help pay for those flowers. That's what we can do. So look at this. Look at this as a group going through the old city, not with hate and chants of violence and racist hatred, but with flowers and with love in very concrete ways to make sure people know there are Jews who are like this, not only Jews like that. Oh, I can't.
All the flowers in the world, if you can guarantee me that the feelings inside going to change towards us, and they will be really willing to really, be nice and really, real. Not like temporarily. Not just when I give the flowers. I want it to be all the time.
We all do, absolutely. The only way to do it is to create the possibilities for human experience of each other, not only of hate.
The feeling can change, like the flowers feeling can change.
Not immediately, I'll say, and I appreciate your comments. Think about the border between France and Germany in 1943. If you were in France in 1943, could you have imagined a time where you wouldn't even need a passport to go between France and Germany like you can today because they're both EU countries? It takes a tremendous imagination of the promised land. That's exactly what I'm describing. We're in the desert. It's almost impossible to imagine. Could we have imagined Northern Ireland changing from at all? Is it perfect? By no means, no. But when you're in the desert, imagining the promised land is what faith demands of us. When the Israelites were in the desert, all they knew was 400 years of slavery. All they knew was what it was to be enslaved by Egyptians who all they cared about was destroying them. And that's exactly what we have to do. We have to imagine the possibilities. They start with very small steps. I'm a rabbi, by the way. My Rebbitzin is over here. If you want her to respond, she's happy to respond, but... My Jewish soul. Thank you. I'll tell the folks. Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you here. I appreciate the comments because I think what you're describing is the fear that we can be peace-loving, but somehow the others will not be. And in my experience, the world is more complicated than we're only the good guys and they're only the bad guys. It's true, there are people on our side who are not interested in peace, and there are people on their side, and I say that very, that are interested in peace. There are good guys who are Palestinian, and there are bad guys who are Palestinian. There are good guys who are Jews, and there are bad guys who are Jews. It's, you know what, that's the problem. Guess what, we're complicated as human beings. And finding a way from hostility and hatred into a place where there's a different narrative is hard work and doesn't happen simply. So I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the fear.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
I hope that we're going to succeed,
I do too. We all do. We want the violence to end. I don't think it's going to happen with more violence. And this is exactly the story of being in the Midbar. We're in the desert. We can't imagine a different possibility. We can't imagine redemption, right? We're so crushed by the evil, or in our own lives, we're crushed by our own mistakes. We're crushed by the decisions we've made that we regret or that we feel disappointed by, right? All these things crush us. What this period of the Omer tells us is we have to be able to breathe in through the desert in which we live and be able to imagine a different possibility for a future. That is hard work, and I totally agree with that. Tag Ma'ir was my inspiration, and Gadi himself, Randy and I met with Gadi when we were I'd never met him. I know his son, who is also an activist in Israel, but I asked if Randy and I could meet with Gadi. Do you have that picture, Jason, of the four of us? No? I'm not sure if you have that one. Anyway, because I'll tell you, why did I want to tell Gadi? And you ask, what impact do those flowers have? When Donald Trump was elected president, some of you remember, the Friday after the election, I went to the mosque, and what did I go with? Flowers. I said to myself, well, I've been inspired by Tag Ma'ir for a long time. How can I respond to the pain that those Muslims must be feeling? I can't change the framework. I can't change what's happening, but I can spread light. How has even our participating in that Juma welcoming changed us? Think about it, and we owe it in B'Shem Amro to Gadi and Tag Ma'ir for giving us a model, and I think it's true in our lives. What does Shiva mean? When somebody dies, you cannot undo the death. You cannot tell somebody or make the grief go away. You show up. You sit with them. That is the most powerful response we have. We can't change it, right? We can't, I have the power, or because I don't have the power to make somebody rise from the dead, I'm going to ignore somebody who's in grief. No, Judaism teaches us lehefech. Even if we sit in silence, showing up, being a witness in the moments of great difficulty has power. The Talmud tells us that when you show up to somebody's sick bed, you can't fix them, right? I mean, some people here might be doctors and can do that. I can't do that. But all of my years of being in hospital rooms and in being with people who are sick and or sometimes dying, is that our tradition says if you sit with somebody in pain or sick, 1/60th of their pain will be eliminated. Okay, I'll take it. If you sit with somebody in pain, 1/60th of their pain will be diminished. It's not everything. It's enough for me. So while we are here in the desert, we imagine that the only reality is the one that we see. We have to remember that the Torah itself is given in the desert. When we're in the middle of the Midbar, Sinai doesn't happen in the Promised Land. It doesn't happen when we're comfortable and we know what's ahead. The revelation of Mount Sinai, of Shavuot, happens right in the middle of the desert. So as we're bumbling around, not knowing where we're going, let's just remember. There's the picture. It's at Noah Satat's office, and that's Gadi. And that's when I told him the story of what we do here at CBST with the mosque. And again, he's an Orthodox Jew. He's doing this also out of his deep religious belief. Thank you, Jason. That was great. Jason's the best. Fantastic. Rick just mentioned, and the Muslims brought flowers to CBST after the massacre in Pittsburgh. So maybe the best we can do is to bring a little more beauty into the world, show up with some flowers, some music. Maybe we can create some light. And with Tag Ma'ir, we can keep spreading the light no matter what is happening in the world. Shabbat Shalom.